welcome you all to the new site code user group Kolkata session with Jitendra Ghanekar. I believe that he doesn't need any introduction. He's a senior site code consultant, and also he is site code MVP 2024. I hope you can all hear me clearly. So Jitendra will guide us through choosing the right sitecore solution between MVC, JSS, SXA, and XM Cloud. Over to you, Jitendra.
Thank you, Kaushik, for this opportunity. Am I audible properly?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Okay, so today's topic is choosing the right site code solution between among MVC, JSS, SXA, and XM Cloud. So basically a different development approach. Before starting, let me introduce myself. I'm Jitendra Jayant Kanekar. I'm Sitecore Technology MVP 2024. I have over 18 plus years of experience in IT industry, and since 2013, I'm working with Sitecore. Uh, I'm Sitecore, three-time Sitecore certified developer, except cloud certified developer. And last 2 years, I'm working with Evident, formerly known as Atos, as a senior consultant and Sitecore architect. And I do share my knowledge from my YouTube channel, my Sitecore Diaries. So you can visit the YouTube channel and see if you like those videos. Let me know. I've given my all my social media handle like LinkedIn and the Gmail ID here. You can connect me if you have any question. Okay, so let's start. So what is the agenda here? So basically, whenever we will get a new requirement as a developer mentality, what we think is let's work on the new technology, new thing which is in the market. This may be good for a developer point of view, but it may not be for as a project success or maybe for the client point of view. So we have to understand that what are the things which we should be using it and what will be the better things to for the client. So how can we do that? So we have a different development approaches. How can we check? How can we choose the best approach for the your requirement that we are going to see? So first of all, we will see what are the site for content management products and the development approaches we are having. Just a brush up of those. Then the key point of this presentation or this session is the to find out the differences between Sitecore MVC, JSS, SXA, and XM Cloud. Not technical point of view, but as a requirement analysis, what are the different things which is the which can be your differentiate your decision or which can impact your decision. So that we are going to see. And at the end, I will tell you that my method of comparative study, you can utilize that to find out the best product or best development approach which you can use, and that can be applied to any comparative study. Okay, so we will take the questions at the end. I hope that is fine.
Yes,
I
correct.
will,
Yes,
okay.
absolutely.
So first thing is let's overview that what are the different products or development approaches we as Sitecore provides for the content management. So you must be knowing we are having a Sitecore XP, XM, and XM Cloud. I'm not going into the details of those, what is the difference and all, but these are the basic products which you are having. On top of this, there is something called a development framework. So what are the different development framework we have? And if you go with a traditional one, that is Sitecore MVC, which is based on a .NET MVC architecture. Then we have a Sitecore SXA, which is accelerated development. And then we have a Sitecore JSS. So these are the three, what is the major development approaches. But I have also included something called no low or low code. This is because of the XM Cloud. Yes, XM Cloud depends on it works in XXA and JSS, but there is something, few things which for which I have considered that as a separate framework. It is not, but we have considered it separate because if you want to go for XM Cloud, whether we can work on that. For that point of view, I have considered that as a fourth development framework. But ideally, there are only three frameworks. That is the MVC, SXA, and JSS. So what it is, we will again brush up our knowledge. So Sitecore MVC, it is .NET framework. So it is renderings are built on the view and controller rendering. So those are your .NET one. Then you have SXA, where you can use both the things. And this is basically used for a rapid development. So you can have .NET MVC also or JS framework also. And then we have a Sitecore JSS, which is purely on JS framework. You can use a .NET Core also. You have a .NET Core SDK also in the Sitecore JS. I know it is not used much, but it is there. And you can use the presentation as the JSON rendering. So these are the three basic things. And if you talk about XM Cloud, you must be knowing SXA and JSS, because using that only you are going to work on XM Cloud. But on top of that, you have a few functionalities like external BYOC, like bring your own core component, and the component builder and drag and drop. What you see is what you get editor. So this is bit different, because in the component builder, you can build your component without the writing a much code also. So that can be a different than the site code JSON. So that's the reason it is there. It is separately I have considered it. So when you think about all this framework, what is the difference that we will go in detail? Okay. I've just written the write-up here. I think if you want to read it, you can read this later, maybe. Whatever I explained, that is same thing is here. Just text which is written here, the write-up. Okay. So just summarizing Sitecore MVC, it is MVC framework. Sitecore JSS, it is basically a headless one. You can use it for SCPA. SXA is your fast accelerated development, and XM Cloud is a cloud native version of Sitecore Experience Manager. Now the highlights of this. So Sitecore MVC, we know that is now the MVC framework, but the more important point is you have a full control over the rendering and the strongly type coupled architecture, and that we will see in next when we see the topologies also. Whereas JSS, it's a headless CMS. Now, I'm not going into the what is headless. We had many sessions on headless, so you must be knowing what is headless. It's client-side rendering we can use now with the Next.js. You can have a server-side renderings also, and you can use mock data for a local development. Those are key highlights I'm giving you. Sitecore SXA, you have a pre-built component and templates, drag and drop page design, responsive grid systems. And XM Cloud, you know it is a cloud native architecture. The infrastructure is managed by Sitecore, and it has an enhanced security and compliance. Okay, so this is the basic what is MVC, JSS, and SXA. Now we will come to the key points that when you want to differentiate between them, which will impact your decision to select the development. The first two things is the technology and learning curve. So why technology? So you might have encountered some client where they might don't want to put their code onto the cloud. That kind of organizations are also there. So you maybe those will impact your decision. There are organizations there in their landscape, they don't want .NET. So then that is also impact your decision. So technology, that point of view, it is important. And the learning curve, that is also key thing here, because you must have observed when Sitecore has come, the .NET resources are upskilled to the Sitecore MVC. Then you have a SXA, then MVC developers are upskilled to SXA. Then the JSS has come. Again, there's upskilling has happened. Now XM Cloud, that is also upskilling. So learning curve, how much time and how it is to get upskill, that is also important, because you can't keep changing your resources. You can't get resources every time from the market. So that learning curve, how it is complex and how much time it takes, that is also important. So if you go with a Sitecore MVC, you know it is MVC framework and Razor View. But if you talk about the learning curve point of view, you can say it is a moderate or a steep. Who knows the .NET, it may be easy for them, but still it is a moderate and steep, because you have to understand complete Sitecore concept here. It's a coupled architecture, so it's not just on the depend on .NET. So how it works, how the component based framework works, all those you need to be understand. So that's why it is a moderate to steep. When you consider a JSS, complete different for a .NET resource or a Sitecore MVC resource, which is onboarding on the Sitecore JSS. You are using JavaScript framework. You might not be aware how React work, Angular work, Vue work. Yes, we can have a separate team altogether, but that's not the right thing to do. That you should be aware how it works. So you should understand the Sitecore JSS, how it works. You know how you should be knowing what is headless and how modern JavaScript framework works, how the Jamstack architecture works. So that point of view, it is again a steep learning curve only. When we talk about Sitecore SXA, Sitecore SXA is sold as a accelerated development product. That means it is bit easy to understand. If you know the site code a little bit, you will be understanding the site code as such, and it's a bit easy to upskill. So that is it's a moderate for me to for if you are working or if you want to upskill on the site code SXA. Cloud, XM Cloud. Now this is something which is new in the market, but it's built on the cloud. So even though you may be just utilizing the cloud feature, you should be aware how it works. The cloud features you should be aware. And it's if you are to upskill for the XM Cloud, you should be knowing the JSS and SXA also. That means if you are moving on site for MVC, you have to learn JSS, SXA, and you also knowing the cloud thing. So you can say a steep and time consuming. Obviously, if you know those cloud things and JSS, it may be easy for you. So it's depend on what kind of a resources you are having. So again, these points when you compare, it all depend on what is your team size or how or team skill set. Depending on that changes, but it's in general, I'm saying that site for MVC and JSS might be steep. SX a bit easier. XN Cloud may be more steeper than the MVC and JSS because you have to know all other things. I'm moving to the next point. So we are going to see our topologies and the architecture which is used in general applications. Okay, and accordingly, what can be used? Like there is a monolithic application, a traditional CMS application, where everything is in the one box only. Your front-end application contain third-party integration, your admin UI, content editor, everything in the one box only. And your multi-channels also, what is happening is you might be using some bootstrap or framework or some frameworks which is helping you to render the application separately. Okay, but you are using the same technology, only one technology only. So okay, so this everything is in the one. It's a monolithic application. In that case, you might use an on-premise environment. You may go for a platform as a service or infrastructure as a service, or you can use the Sitecore managed cloud also for this thing, and you may have a CD server, CN server. So that kind of application. So in this case, the best product you will be using is Sitecore XP or XM, again on your depending on your requirement. So for this purpose, Sitecore MVC or Sitecore SXA might be a good choice for your architecture or your application. And then comes the headless CMS. In headless CMS, the basically it is without body, side without head. So front end is separate. So you have a front end application completely separate. If you see here, the your depending on your channel, you might use a different technology altogether. Like you may use a .NET for the websites. You may use Next.js for some mobile application, or may use a different technology for developing the mobile application. But your content is same, which is coming from CMS. Okay, and then it's a composable architecture also, where you can add the features depending on your requirement. You can have a third party integration. So that kind of architecture, if you want to build, then what you will need is you might be using a Jamstack architecture. You might using a REST API. CDN you want to utilize, like you have a static pages which you will be rendering, is like you have everything is hosted on the Cloudflare and you're just retrieving from the Cloudflare. That kind of a technology. You might have a multi-channel applications, not just a website or application. You might have a kiosk also. In that case, you may prefer to have a software as a service architecture. You might want to have go over headless, or you want to go for the cloud based. So this kind of architecture, the preference will be site for XM and XM cloud. It's simply because XM doesn't, you do not need basically a CD here, right? So front end application is completely hosted separately. So you may go over XM and XM cloud. In that case, Sitecore JSS and Sitecore XM Cloud might be your good development framework. Okay, so you should be aware what is your technology, what is your landscape, what kind of a architecture you want to build. So depending on that, you might think about which is the better development framework you can utilize. Again, I'm just giving here a write-up that what are the things which we already discussed now. Okay, I'm just written some write-up here. Like Sitecore MVC is a traditional monolithic architecture. Sitecore JSS, you have a separate backend and front end. It's a decoupled architecture. You can use a different JavaScript framework. Sitecore SXA, It is component-based architecture, and it is for the faster development. And Sitecore XM Cloud is a cloud native one. You can have a complete, your infrastructure is managed by the Sitecore only. So you just have to worry about your application here. Then the development approach and the architecture. Okay, this is also we just seen. So Sitecore MVC, what kind of architecture you are using, what kind of developer approach you are using, you can pick the things like you want a server side rendering with .NET MVC, then you have to pick for Sitecore MVC. Single page application JSS. You want to accelerate your development. What I mean by accelerate, you have a lot of n number of micro website which you want to build on the Sitecore. Then maybe the SXA is the best preference than the other things. Okay, and then you want to utilize the cloud feature. So all the three slides which I am just explaining, it is on the development approach and the architecture. So that is also a key point to take a decision on the correct development, correct approach which you are going to take for your project. Deployment and maintenance. I think this is the more impact it will add, because this will cost this will lead to a more cost also. Like you once you develop the application, it will go into the maintenance phase, and that maintenance phase is continuous, right? So, and if you're putting a lot of efforts there, lot of resources are involved, then that cost will also increase, which a client may not prefer. So deployment and maintenance is also a very important factor for your decision. So if you talk about Sitecore MVC, it's a traditional approach. So you can go with a traditional deployment. You can set up CI/CD things, but it's a traditional one which you are doing it. And the key thing here is, if you are putting your Sitecore MVC application on-premise, right? If you are not using the cloud, then it is more management and deployment is more tedious, because the every month the Windows patches are coming, so that patches is getting updated. The Sitecore vulnerability patches are need to be updated. All those you have to manage it. So this, if you are on premise, it is more problematic. So deployment and maintenance may be a costly here for the Sitecore MVC. Sitecore JSS. Here now you have two things. One is your front end application, and another is your CMS. So both the things you have to manage together, okay, for the deployment as well as the maintenance. So both the things will come here, and depending on what kind of technology you are using for front end, so the deployment and maintenance may change. You have to manage the CI/CD also to complete two different applications. You have to deploy separate things on separate servers. So those things you have to maintain. SXA, again, what kind of things which you are using, depending on your deployment and the maintenance will change. Like if you are using a MVC component, then the traditional way you are doing it. JSS, it may be a different way you are doing your deployment and maintenance. So skill set is also a key point here, that what kind of a skill set you are having, whether they can handle those deployment and maintenance. Your support teams, basically skill set will come also in picture. So that is also a point where you have to remember that how you are going to do the deployment maintenance, how it is going to impact your decision here. And at the end, it's the cost which is going to matter for your client, and the quality. So how it is going to impact both those things, that you need to see depending on your requirement and your skill set which is having. Then your XM Cloud. So assume that you have an application which is going to have a lot of traffic. Okay, then it may be the case that you want to utilize the automatic scaling functionality of the cloud. Okay, so you can put your MVC application also in the cloud, but then again, those are the things which you need to manage it. But XM Cloud is providing that automatically scaling is happening there, so you can take that way also. The maintenance here, where the Windows updates, the Sitecore patches updates, security patches, all those things will be taken care by the Sitecore itself. That's, you do not have to worry about it. Okay, so this is the another point which you need to consider while you are doing a comparative study to select your best approach. Then I'm moving ahead. Customization and flexibility. This customization and flexibility is always a debatable point, that someone will say that Sitecore MVC might be more flexible, customized. Someone will say SXA might be more flexible, JSS is more flexible. It is always a debatable point. Okay. But you can see what is your project requirement, and that point of view, what kind of a customization you are doing, what kind of a flexibility you are required, and whether it fits with your MVC, JSS, SXA, and XM Cloud. This is, I'm telling you in generalized way. It may do for your requirement or may not. It's depend on your requirement. I'm just generalizing this customization and flexibility. If you are using the Sitecore MVC, sorry, if you have an application where you want to integrate with the other platforms which are built or which are more compatible with the .NET, then you might prefer to have a .NET in your Sitecore also. So Sitecore MVC, it may be more easy for you to work with that. So that can be your customization flexibility point, where you will see that we are using the lot of the integrations are there and all those are built on .NET. So it may be easy for us. So that kind of a thing which you can think if you're thinking about customization flexibility, but Sitecore MVC point of view. JSS, and again JSS, if you are using, and you might be using the single page application, or you are using the headless CMS, so where your front end is separate. In that case, you will see your application whose UI is very rich, which can't be achievable from normal HTML or HTML5 things. It can be achievable from the React or Next.js or Angular or Vue. Then it can be a good thing to use the Sitecore JSS. Sitecore SXA. I think Sitecore SXA is something which we will see that there is only one point, that is it's for the rapid development. So you have a lot of website which you want to create, and those are static. What I mean by static is that there is not much integration with any other system, or there is not much transaction, that you may think of a Sitecore SXA here. Obviously, the Sitecore SXA, if you talk about customization and flexibility, it may have a lower hand here. Okay, it can be customizable. I'm not saying that it can't be customizable, but if you compare with MVC or XM Cloud or JSA, it has a lower hand because its use is different. It is for the rapid development. So if you want to do a rapid development, then maybe you might want to avoid the customization. Then of course the XM Cloud. So as I said for MVC, that you have an application where you are trying to integrate your application with the .NET related things, .NET related external application, that you may prefer MVC. Similarly, if you want to utilize some cloud-based applications or a cloud integrations, then your preference should be on the cloud only. So then you can prefer for XM Cloud things. So the scalability you want, the flexibility you want, you do not want to depend on your infrastructure team, you want only concentrate on application, then you may go for XM Cloud. So customization and flexibility, that also will add the very important point on your decision. And then we will come to the most important thing. Whenever you are having a requirement and you are proposing something, then the most important point is the cost, that I think every client will see what will be the cost. And then if you see the future, like you are developing an application today, it doesn't mean it should last for a one year or a 2 year. So you have to see that what is the future trend, where future is going, what are the technology which are coming. Like right now, if you see AI is the what you say a buzzword today. So you might think about that point of view, that the future trend, what is there, and then the market. So currently, whenever you do any analysis, you are generally do a market analysis also, that what kind of applications using what kind of a technology. So that kind of analysis you generally do, it is because that you want to understand what is more stable and what is used and it is more preferred in the market. So cost, future trend, and market. That is also a very important point for your decision to select what approach you are going to select. So if you talk about Sitecore MVC, what I feel is the cost point of view, it can go generally high. Okay, the first point is you might have a long development timeline, so that may increase the cost. Second thing is if you are using the on-premise setup, then it is obviously going to add more cost, and then the maintenance. Maintenance is also going to create add the cost here. So MVC is generally at the higher side. When you talk about future trend, it is bit evolving. You say it is just lagging, or you can say a legacy thing, but yes, it is improving. So maybe evolving with integrations of modern practices. And when you talk about market today, also the Sitecore MVC has a strong presence in the traditional enterprise environment where you have a lot of business or a complex business logic. You might prepare for Sitecore MVC. So currently, the market also has a strong presence in the traditional enterprise environment for Sitecore MVC. Then if we talk about Sitecore JSS, JSS cost can vary depending on what kind of a framework you are using, JavaScript framework, basically UI framework, and where you are hosting it. So depending on that, that cost may vary. So you can't say that it is costlier or it is not. So it is all depend what kind of a technology you are using and where you are hosting it. So that will get added to the cost. And if you talk about the future trend, I think you must have observed in all the sessions also which are happening on the site code that everyone is trying to learn more about headless CMS. So headless CMS is a more popular word. So that way that has raised the popularity for site code JSS also, and the single page application also. That is also very what do you say buzzing word today in the market, like a single page application. So these two things, headless CMS and single page application, is automatically added the popularity for the site code JSS. So that is your future trend, one of the future trend you are having. So that's why you might be seeing a lot of project which is going to site code JSS, because everyone sees what is future. And if you talk about the market, it's a rapidly growing uh, because of headless CMS, obviously. And we are using the modern JavaScript frameworks here. So no new JavaScript frameworks are also coming. Like now, we initially when we are starting site code JS, people are working with a React and Angular, but now everyone is working with the Next.js. So that is happening. So it is growing rapidly, and it's very easy also because your framework, your UI is completely different, so you can manage that. So that is what we are happening here. And if you talk about SXA, again cost saving option, when you say it's a rapid development, it's automatically reduce your development timeline. So development timeline is reduced, it means your cost is also reduced, so it is cost saving. Okay, if you talk about future trend, till now whatever the static websites which you are having, static, what I mean is not like hard coded website. Static, what I mean is there is no transaction happening there, that it is a best choice. So rapid development, it is used, and it is popular for the what is a bulk website, a micro website. If you are trying to create, like if you are trying to create hundreds of micro website with 4 pages, 5 pages, which are static, or you are want to utilize the static pages, like you want to host that on the Cloudflare and get the static data only, then the site for SXA is preparing. So that market, we consider that kind of market, it is more popular there. And yes, we'll come to XM Cloud. Cost is for XM Cloud is always a debatable question. In fact, in cloud, always a debatable thing. Every time, whenever you see any presentation, any comparison, you always say that pay as you go. So it doesn't mean pay as you go is not costly. It depends on how much you are using it. So utilization, depending on the utilization, what kind of a service you are using, the cost may vary, but compared to the JSS and normal SXA, it is always going to be higher. So it is higher only. Subscription based, you will have the cost. And if you talk about the future trend, it is likely to become more dominant. Okay, so every business is moving to the cloud, towards the cloud first strategy. So it is more dominant at this point. Okay, it may take over everything. So it is the future for us. And then if you talk about the market, the in the market, if you see the cloud-based application or cloud-based CMS, okay, it is just emerging as a leader. What we think, I think, if you compare with the like Adobe and other things, it is still the emerging as a leader. It is not at the still reached to that point. Maybe in future few years, it may be reached to the reach to the top. So yes, there is a scope here in XM Cloud that the business are moving toward more cloud first strategy. So it may be future we can see in the XM Cloud. So this cost, future trend, and market, these are the three important points which you need to consider for your selection of a development framework. I have just summarized here all the things. It's just in one word. I have summarized all this point. The cost point of view, Sitecore MVC is higher. JSS can vary. SXA can save your cost, and the SXA cloud is higher. If you talk about future trend, MVC is evolving. Sitecore JSS is right now most popular one. SXA is only used for a rapid development, and XM Cloud is likely to dominate in future. And then you have a tradition the market. Sitecore MVC is more strong for a traditional enterprise application. Sitecore JSS more used in a single page application. Sitecore SXA multiple microsites if you are having, and XM Cloud where you have a cross channel applications where you want to use content as a service. Then the market is using XM Cloud. Okay, ideal use cases. So what I'm telling you right now, it's not thing that for if you are having this requirement, you should do this. It's not I'm saying, but what I'm saying is ideally what you can use it. Okay, so if you have a lot of customization, you have a lot of integration with .NET, and you have an enterprise application where you have a lot of complex logic also within that. There are a lot of transactions are happening. Then you might prefer the Sitecore MVC. You have a rich UI customization. Your UI, the application UI is rich. Okay, then you have a also have a headless CMS. You want to utilize the headless CMS, or you want to create a single page application. Then Sitecore JSS will be a preferable option. You want to have a quick and fast development. The timeline is a constraint for you. Okay, and then heavily content based websites. Your websites are heavily content based, and you are creating a lot of static multi-site website. Okay, there are a lot of sites which you are creating. Then Sitecore SXA might be your preference. Then the last one is if you have a low or zero code, you want your content editor designer to create their own component themselves. You do not want to involve your development team. You want to take advantage of a cloud services, cloud features, and you have a multi-channel application. You want to use content as a service, then the XM Cloud is your option. Okay, again, I'm just given a write-up here, what I explained just now. So I'm not going into that detail. You can read this. Okay, now I will come to the comparative study, the last point here. Before that, I will just have a water. So comparative study. So what I mean by comparative studies, it's not just for your development framework. Okay, you can apply this logic, whatever I am going to tell you, that in all your our selections. Okay, there are a lot of mechanism which is used for a comparative study. I'm giving you a simple one how it is done. Okay, for I'm using this in many years now, so I'm just explaining that. So first thing is when you have a requirement and you want to decide that which framework I want to go for, then you should see what are the features or what are the points which is going to impact your decision. Okay. So what is more important to you? What are the things which is going to impact your decision? So that feature you can list down. So I have just given an example here. It's not like you have to list down these only. Okay. You can analyze your requirement and your overall landscape, your overall company structure, your future vision of your client. All those things you can consider, and you can list down all those in as a feature which is going to impact your decision. So for here, for our example, I'm just taking as a cost and efforts. This is always going to impact your decision. Cost and efforts is always going to impact. Then the resources. As I said earlier also, it is not easy to get the resources for the market. Who are building the team, who must be knowing that it is sometimes it happens that you finished your project till you didn't get any resource from the market. So resources are very important. So what kind of a resources and skill set you are having. Then the learning curve. So how much whatever resources you are having, how easy for them to upskill, if you want to upskill. So that learning curve is important. Then the timeline. So timeline also client first requirement, that there might be a strict timeline, or there might not be a strict timeline. So depending on timeline also, your decision may change. Technology, as I said earlier, like there are few clients or a few business who do not want to put their data on the cloud. So that can be one thing which may impact your decision. So some of the organization, they do not want to work with a .NET, they want to use the different technologies. So or somewhere it is maybe the other way around, like they do not want to go for the UI framework. So that can be a technology constraint you might be having. Okay, as per your client or as per your requirement. And then the customization, what kind of a customization you are doing it. So all these you can list down. I've just given an example here. And then the weightage. So what do you mean by weightage? Rate your features. What I mean by rate your feature is how much important that feature for your decision. Okay, so there might be a thing that you may not worry, that customization may not be that much important than the cost. Like, so you weightage that, like you rate that. So like here, I say I'm rating here cost and efforts as a 3. What I feel is cost and efforts is going to impact my decision more. So I'm giving a more point here. Resources also going giving you more point, because if I didn't get a resources, I will not able to complete my project. So that is more important for me. So I'm giving 3. Learning curve, because I do not want my resources to get upskill. I'm going to get those resources from the market. That's why I'm giving higher point to the resources than the learning curve. Timeline is very important for me. Technology doesn't matter for me. That's why I'm given 1 point. And then the customization is okay for me. So that's why 2. So these 2 things which you have to do by analyzing what is your requirement, what is your company strategy, what is your client strategy, what is your client vision, what is your client's landscape, technology landscape. All those things you have to understand, and then put down those into as a list here, and then give them ratings, that how much it is important. Then options to compare. So you can have maybe have 2 options to compare. For our example, for this presentation, I've considered all 4 development framework: MVC, SXA, JSS, and XM Cloud. Okay, again, I'm telling you the thing. XM Cloud is not a development framework, but we consider it because we want to see whether we can use the cloud thing. Yeah. Okay. So when you compare this, I will say the cost efforts now. Now MVC, what I feel is the cost is very higher side. Okay, that's why I have given a point as a 1 here. SXA, I think cost and efforts is less, so I have given a 3 point here. JSS, again, it is a costly for me, so I am given 1. XM Cloud also, I think it's a costly but better than MVC and JSS, so that's why I put as a 2. Okay, now this I'm comparing with the cost and efforts here, right? So it's very important for me. So weightage is 3. So what I have done is I have straight away multiply this point with the weightage, and the point final point I have come is MVC 3, SXA 9, and JSS 3, and XM Cloud as 6. So this is how I will get that for that impact. This is why weightage for this, and similarly I will do it for everything. Okay, then I calculate this. Okay, so as per this, my first winner is XM Cloud. You can straight away pick your winner. But again, I'm telling you my method. I don't go directly with this feature. What I'm doing is I'm filtering out it. So what I filter out is MVC and JSS. I'm not going to use it, but SXA, if you see, is 28 and 29. So it's close to me for. So whether I should go for SXA and XM Cloud. Now I will come again on those points which we discussed, the differences and the ideal use cases. Okay, so I will think now rationally that what kind of a requirement I have, whether it is good to use SXA. That is my rational thinking, that whether I should go for SXA or XM Cloud. So depending on that, I will pick whether SXA I should go for SXA or XM Cloud. Or you think that this all uh, all your points or features you are covered in the your comparison, then you think XM Cloud is the best thing, then go for XM Cloud itself. Okay, so that is how I do the comparative study, and I think it's the best approach for what I have done for so many years. This is how you can pick your best development framework. But before doing this comparative study, you should aware all your differences between all those frameworks, and also the your company's landscape, your company's vision, your technology vision, everything you should be aware, and depending on that only you can take a decision. Okay, I think I'm done. Maybe I will open it for questions.
Thank you, Jitendra. Anyone have any question? You can write it down in the chat or you can unmute yourself. Okay, it seems we do not have any question. Okay, so if you have any, I'll add Jitendra in our ECG Kolkata group.
Okay.
Please, you can have a chat with him. Also, definitely you can follow him in LinkedIn. You can get the LinkedIn URL, LinkedIn account URL of Jitendra from our ECG Kolkata website. So, yep, thank you all for joining the session. And thank you, Jitendra, for the insightful session. And we got some brilliant information about the XP, XM Cloud, and how we can choose as an architect or as a, solution provider. So it's a very good information we got. Thank you very much for your time, and everyone. Thanks for your time in the evening.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for
Thank you.
joining.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.